types of sports with shoot and tour. Football discussion on the internet.
Yeah, it's funny. I just realized I couldn't name one team that is in the NCAA tournament. I could guess, but it'd be a guess. I would guess Kansas. I would guess Duke. I would guess Kentucky. I certainly wouldn't give a fuck. It is both types of sports. Thank you so much for tuning in, whether you're watching live at youtube.com/Chad Duke Show or on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast. Click the like button or leave a 5-star review. There's Radio's Gigantor. I was prepping for the program right up until the very beginning. I forgot I didn't send you the goddamn link. Sorry, my apologies, young Gigantor.
It's all good. I think college basketball gets the pop that it gets in March. It's strategically placed perfectly. But let us not forget that none of us would give a damn about college basketball if the Super Bowl was being held in March instead of February. It's the first month without football, so that means we have to substitute some big, grandiose tournament in place of football when all of us would rather be watching a Raiders-Jets game at 10 o'clock at night on a Thursday.
I mean, I'll go a step further. I think if they banned brackets for whatever reason, I'll go a step further. If they banned people from being able to talk about their brackets, like they could still fill out a bracket and win money and be in an office pool, but you weren't allowed to say one word about it, I think you have the ratings for the March Madness tournament immediately just with that, because I don't see not one person bumps into me and casually says, did you see the game last night in regards to college basketball for 360 days out of the year? And then you get it now, and it's just because it's an extension of what we talk about with football too, where no one talks about their team anymore. They talk about their fantasy team, the bets that they have made, the parlays that they want to brag about. You know, it's just another excuse for people to me it up.
The snobbiest sports thing that I have done over the last couple of years is not make a bracket in strong protest of, hey, you're not coming up to me talking basketball. You asked me if I made a bracket, not because you wondered who I had in my Final Four, but because you wanted me to ask you who you had in your Final Four, Elite Eight, Sweet 16, and so on. I won't participate because of this social rule that we all must make a bracket. Maybe I will. I'll get back in on the fun one day, but it's still a wee bit too irritating for me to dive back in.
There's so many irritating things going on right now, and that starts with Aaron Rodgers. And if the report, I think it was Rossini, I'm not sure who had the report that he is waiting to hear back from the Vikings. But even if that is the case, I understand Aaron Rodgers wanting to get the best possible situation, and you could argue toward the best possible quarterbacking situation in the league. Regardless, everything thrown in is the Minnesota Vikings, right? The most quarterbacking-friendly system, head coach, weapons, you're indoors. Now, the division, we can talk about that. So I understand him wanting to go to Minnesota from that vantage point. But the optics of going full Favre are baffling, because I guess the relationship now isn't, it's not as bad as it was back in the beginning of this. And also, people gloss over, you and I have talked about this. I used to talk about this with Drab all the time. People gloss over the end of Favre's career like it was all a car accident, like it was the last injury-plagued year. And with him with the Jets, he had one of the greatest quarterbacking seasons of all time with the Minnesota Vikings the first year out. And I would say that this offense is capable of that, and it's easier to play offense now in the league. But does he really want to go into Green Bay twice? Like, is there that type of revenge in his heart? He seems to have so much animosity and energy about the media and the way that he's treated by the media and the way that he is negatively reported on. And it would just be the biggest story in the league every time he stepped into Lambeau, whether he did it once or twice more. I'm surprised that he even wants to consider going down that avenue.
I'm rooting for the most entertaining option at this point, and that's him pulling a full Favre.
That's the Vikings.
That's all I care about is him going to Minnesota, not because I want to see Aaron Rodgers throw for 4,200 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 10 picks, but because how is it possible? How would it even be feasible to have this happen to another legendary Packers quarterback? It adds so many layers to the storyline, in my opinion. And the way that he's handled like the last couple years of his career in New York, like he needs a fresh wash or needs to call it. And going to a middling franchise isn't it for him. And I think he knows that. As much as I love to come out here and bash Aaron Rodgers for being a doom and gloom, sourpuss, bad energy guy on the sidelines, I think he is a smart enough person to know what his optics are and what would be best for him. And if that's waiting on Minnesota, he's right. That is the one thing that he should do. And if he has the power to do it before you get thrown to the Wolves at another spot.
Is the Steelers throwing you to the Wolves? The Steelers go to the playoffs every year. They have structure. They've invested heavily now in a new offensive weapon for him. They're going to need – here's the problem that I have with what's going on is these teams need to be building out their draft board right now. And that changes drastically for all three teams involved if Aaron Rodgers is part of the equation. And if he's letting New York, what I would assume he's letting New York do is be a feeder team for the other two franchises to try to pump up his price. I would assume the Steelers, he has to legitimately be considering just because they're the Steelers. And then of course the Vikings are the pie in the sky. I just think with each moment that drags on, you are doing yourself a disservice. I saw Robert Griffin III, who is just at this point a lol cow. I don't know. Maybe he gets a lot of action. I guess people respect what he says. He's so obvious to me in what he does. But he was talking about how Joe Burrow, it was cringe. It's like, he's a real brother. He went to war for his brothers. He got his brothers paid. Like, no, he wants to throw to two of the best wide receivers in the league. I mean, there's a component of that, but he wants to have the best possible guys to have. And Aaron Rodgers, to a lesser extent, should want that too by letting the team he's going to play for know what his decision is so that they can get going and get ready for the season coming up.
That's funny you bring up RG3. I've actually changed my tune on a former quarterback doing podcasts. Cam Newton's has actually grown on me because Cam Newton will go on there and actually talk about football like a football player and kind of point out like it's not for the weak and people talk shit and it's scary on the field and people that aren't in it don't understand it. Like I've appreciated how he's discussed football in general as of late. Rodgers in Pittsburgh, it's not the Burrow like sacrificing everything. No, Burrow was self-serving in wanting to throw to those guys, and he should have been. Keep my weapons around me, please and thank you. It's all I have. I'm a top 3 quarterback in this league when I'm healthy. I'm Joe Burrow. Look what you've done to this team that I elevated since I came in. Rodgers to the Steelers, I don't necessarily want him to get Mike Tomlin fired, which I think is what will happen, even though I want to see the imagery of him in a Steelers uniform.
That's a bold claim. You think Rodgers is toxic enough or washed enough? Like he was top 10 in passing yards and touchdowns last year.
I worry that he would give Tomlin his first losing year, and then they would just say, all right, we'll ship them both out, and we'll get a new face in here, where I hope Pittsburgh stays with Tomlin and forever. I think he's a very good coach.
I think they could win 9 games with Mason Rudolph. So I think Aaron Rodgers is better than Mason Rudolph. So
they always do it.
Well, I mean, how much better is he than him? 2 games? Now you're talking 11 wins, and now we're talking to Lamar Jackson is going to get hurt. Like I know it hasn't happened recently, but it's going to happen. Derrick Henry is going to slow down, and then you have to. Are the Bengals going to be able to go into the draft and assemble enough pieces to not give up 45 points? This is the tweeting question. If you are watching, if you are listening to this, it is Robert Griffin III. He said, quote, Joe Burrow is a real one for standing on business. All caps. When you want to use updated young people jargon, the way they know that you're not being a big phony is to make sure that it's in all caps. For his brothers, told the Bengals he wanted Jamar Chase and T. Higgins to stay long in Cincinnati long term. Next thing you know, they both got paid over $100 million. That's a real brother right there. Maybe. I mean, he's been playing with Jamar Chase for a long time. We know he likes T. Higgins, but he wants to win Super Bowls. He's hearing that Dan Marino talk already. He's been to 1 Super Bowl. Statistically, he's a king. He's on that career trajectory. And he didn't just say these two, by the way. It wasn't just these 2 guys getting paid. It's also the guy that they said, go find yourself a trade partner because we're not going to pony up what the market says you dictate for leading the league in sacks the past couple of years. So before we, all right, I'll get back to Rodgers' tour, but I wanted to focus on this. I don't think, as much as I was criticizing the Bengals for being meanie-bajeenies when it comes to giving money to their own guys and they're being cheapskates. And Carson Palmer left for those reasons. These guys don't care about winning. They care about fucking saving money.
Yeah.
I don't think this is the way you win a Super Bowl. I don't think I wrote it down. It's fucking nuts. I'm sure everybody knows this now. $125 million per year for 3 players. That is 44.77% of your salary cap in 2025. I don't think you can win a Super Bowl that way. And I know we're living in a league now where the Eagles went out there and they pay everybody, but they didn't pay them this. I mean, Jamar is getting $5 million more a year than Justin Jefferson is. If they would have done this back, what did CeeDee Lamb get? $35 million a year? Just do this when everyone knows you need to do it and you're not paying these exorbitant fucking fees. I think they'll continue to be fun to watch, but if I'm a Bengals fan, I don't think now we can just pencil them into the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, CeeDee Lamb, $38 million. That's a signing bonus. 4-year, $136 million contract. They're late. You can't be late in this league and be successful. It's commodity knowledge. What do you know that you have in your cart? Can you get it now? Can you get it later at a discount? Or is it going to cost you more in a couple weeks if you want to go back and get that same commodity? Well, I'm already at the store, and I already have my list made. Why don't I just check it off? It should be as simple as that for these teams. Everyone, they like to act like it's so easy to maneuver around the cap and also act like the cap is the worst thing of all time. You can do it. You want to do it. You like playing hardball. You don't like getting pushed around by the players and their agents and that it's becoming more player-friendly. And then you get back down into a corner like this where you then have to overpay. So I just need somebody to start making some snap decisions saying this is the right call, this is the bad call. Philly does it. After every year. It feels like they turn over half their defense. They make some snap calls, they draft well, and they get the defense back to where it needs to be, and they pay the guys that they need to pay on offense when they should. They immediately tax Saquon Barkley on with some more money because they don't want his contract ending next year and him having another bonkers season, having to pay him even more. Getting quick to the punch, I think it's such an underrated part of becoming a well-oiled machine in this league.
It is, but I don't know, Tor. I still can't get away from the fact that maybe not for Buffalo and Josh Allen, but the mindset behind we've got this guy with 4 more years on his contract. He signed this contract for 4 more years, but these other 2 Jags are getting $5 million more dollars. We've got to back up the Brinks trunk unsolicited and make sure we pile money up in front of him, because where does that end? If you have a good quarterback and some other team decides to pay a middle of the road Trevor Lawrence, Brock Purdy type, okay, that's their business. But I've got a contract with you that you use your agent to go back and forth with me. There's something I don't like about that either. I'm with you. I'd rather a team that I root for be proactive, realize what their building blocks are. And without Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills are probably a 4-win team. I mean, I don't know if there's any player in the NFL that accounts for more wins and losses individually than that guy does. Maybe Patrick Mahomes, but Andy Reid won with Alex Smith. I just don't know. There's a line there somewhere where I just don't like the process of, even though we have a written contract, let's get out there and make sure we're keeping up with the Joneses, even though it's not our time to keep up with the Joneses.
It's tough because of the different classes in football also. It's tough to grade and judge a team like the Bengals who have a quarterback, and that's how the classes, in my opinion, get sorted in the NFL. Have a quarterback, a franchise guy, a middle class, where that's your Purdy, your Tua, your Trevor Lawrence, and then your low class, that is no quarterback at all, constantly searching in the doldrums. So I can criticize the Bengals, but they have a quarterback retained. They have a number 1 wide receiver retained and a very good wide receiver 2 retained. They made some errors along the way, but that's a big piece of my building blocks that I have to worry about. That is kind of locked up for now. And if I'm a middle class team, I'm still paddling the boat because we are separating from having to pay middle-class quarterbacks to a higher-class payment every single year.
Let me ask you something. Tor, the general manager, right? They say, maybe it's not your team, maybe it's not the Falcons, but maybe they put you in charge of just a horrible like the Saints. They put you in charge of one of the worst franchises in the league.
Yeah.
And you have your instant. We're not going to do this. We're going to do this. We're going to target these players. We're going to go. Like, one thing I always have a bugaboo about is durability. If I was a general manager and I was in charge of pulling the trigger, I'm not drafting guys that are injured all the time. Like, I want guys that can be out on the field. I want mentally tough guys. I would move that fader up in my process. Are you paying wide receivers the way they're currently being paid in the NFL, $40 million a year? I just, every time I watch wide receivers, like, I love Justin Jefferson, I love Jamar. These guys are fun to watch. But I see teams that aren't excellent. You can adjust. You can put coverage over the top. If you got a shutdown corner, there's guys that just shut down your best wide receiver. We see this with Mike Evans all the time. It's one of the reasons why Lattimore got brought in to Washington. It's like, whoa, we're going to have another matchup again. He's going to shut him down. My point being is that a running back touches the football more. Like, I just feel like there's other positions that can get more of an opportunity to impact the game than any wide receiver can. For me to sit here and say, he's going to be the top paid offensive player on this team or the top paid non-quarterback in our division. I don't know that I think that is a way of doing business that is sustainable ultimately in the NFL.
My Moneyball, so many people get caught up, is toward the general manager here. So many people get caught up in Moneyball and they forget what Moneyball is about. And it's about getting on base so that you could score runs. And the NFL, for me, I am paying one wide receiver exorbitant money. But that has to be weighted on him scoring touchdowns. Yards is great, catches is great, but my key statistic that I'm in on is touchdowns. If I have AJ Brown in the game and I'm within the 40-yard line, I'm pretty sure my quarterback can toss it up to the big fella. He gets us in, we score a touchdown. Points good, guys. That's where I see my investment come in. But a big time like a yards guy that never gets in the end zone, tough to pay that guy. Love him. He's a fan favorite, always touching the ball, moving the offense down the field.
So you're talking about Puka Nacua, right?
Yes.
Because I mean, you're describing Puka Nacua as he moves the change, but I think he's had 9 touchdowns total in his NFL career. I kind of agree with you there.
I think it's and it's tough because when I'm playing Madden or anything, all I want is yards. I just like seeing the run. I like seeing guys just break out the long distance. It's why, in my opinion, the kickoff return touchdown or punt return touchdown is the most fun or exciting play that we have in football, because you get to see the fastest athletes on the planet run as fast as they can for the length of the field. I understand the weight of yards, but you get me a guy that gets in the end zone 10 times a year, he's worth every penny. Like the Mike Evans situation, keep paying him. That's a guy that shows me consistency and shows me a direct correlation to success with points on the board.
Like, who do you think is going to have more touchdowns for the Rams now? I bet Puka Nacua has more yards than Devontae Adams, but I would be willing to bet you Devontae Adams has more touchdowns than Puka Nacua next year.
Puka Nacua could get targeted twice as much within opponent territory. I think Devontae Adams gets more touchdowns. He just has that nose for it. When he was dialed in Green Bay, and even that in like 2021 in Vegas, a lot of big touchdown numbers, and that's what made Green Bay so dangerous. Not because Aaron Rodgers is throwing for 500 yards, but because when he is in the zone and that offense is moving, you can't keep them out of the end zone. They're going to carve you up.
All right, so I pulled this little clip. This is from September, when Justin Jefferson had signed his deal, and they asked Jamar Chase whether or not he wanted to make 1 penny more than Justin Jefferson. I thought this was a funny answer.
Is it true?
Hold on, that's RG3. Look at that fucking picture. What does this say? Dear ex-family, this is a safe space. Ugh. Who comes first in your life after marriage, your mom or your wife, and why? What a weird...
that is engagement baiting.
That's all his account is. He says, this is a safe space, and then asks like a fairly obvious fucking question, then has people scream in his mentions.
He's a Heisman winner.
All right.
Reports that you want 1 penny more than Justin Jefferson.
If I want to beat Justin, I'm going to beat the shit out of Justin. Not by a penny, brother. So,
Jamar, at this point,
let me play that again, because I fucking just am the worst goddamn.
He's the best.
I mean, he's great. He doesn't give a shit, and he speaks from the Bart. And this is him talking about a penny more than Justin. Sorry, I spoke over the beginning.
A lot of rumors. Is it true that the reports that you want 1 penny more than Justin Jefferson?
if I want to beat Justin, I'm going to beat the shit out of Justin. Not by a penny, brother. So,
Jamar, at this point, do you feel like the ball?
By the way, no smiling at all. Like,
I
mean, he is. wide receivers are annoying as shit to me, but I would much rather I'm always open. He won't throw me the ball. He's got an edge to him, Tor, but I would way rather have that than I've got a baby pacifier. My nipples are pierced. My hair's green. It's like that is I am cocky and I'm competitive and I'm not going to be, and I have rivalries and I'm angry about Justin Jefferson. Like, give me that 100 times out of 100 than whatever's going on with DK Metcalf.
Jamar Chase has, given every opportunity to come off as a spoiled wide receiver, a diva wide receiver, somebody never once has come close to the line for that for me. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's his delivery. Maybe it's the circumstance of Cincinnati. I always think he's right. And I'm just constantly defending Jamar Chase in these situations where I feel like I wouldn't defend other receivers typically, but he just comes off as a guy that knows that he wants to win, has the capability to really impact the game. And he comes off as very smart, like, yes, throw me the ball more and we will win more games. It is pretty simple. And no, there's no need for me to attack Zach Taylor yet. It's the offseason. but he is heating up on the Trevor Lawrence scale of anger for me, just on wasted potential capability. But I really like Jamar Chase saying, yeah, I'm not that buddy. Like we'll maybe give each other a comment on Instagram, paraphrasing, but it's F that guy. F his team. This is my team. I want as much money as I can get. I'm the best receiver in the league. I love that mentality now.
I want to, well, I'm on the RG3 kick. I apologize, Tor, because it sounds like you like the guy. So, and I don't have anything necessarily against him personally, except for when I believe he was still married and he had his new side pieces name tattooed on his body while he was out there at training camp. And I'm sure that was awkward for some people. This is the worst RG3 bit of all time. And are you plugged into what this is?
Oh yeah, it's really regrettable. And it's almost insidious, this bit here.
So when Robert Griffin III was with Washington, for a very long time, he was a babyface's babyface. Like, people loved him because he was out on the field ripping and rolling and rolling up the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. But after he got hurt, and there was all the reports about when we're not running these plays and the dad is involved, Alfred Morris was on that team. And Alfred Morris is one of the more likable human beings on the planet. And Alfred Morris never bought a new car. He saved all of his money, and he would show up at training camp every year. And I think it was a Honda Civic Tour. It was an old beater. Griffin leaves Washington and goes to Cleveland and lifts Alfred Morris's bit and pulls up the training camp. And I think that is a Volkswagen Passat. The tweet is, rolled up to camp in the new whip on the off day. Ling ling, you forgot your bling bling. Passat life training camp. Just tries to lift the I'm humble, I'm thrifty, because it was such a babyface story for Alfred Morris.
Yeah.
And it was, for me, it was cringe because everybody remembered where that came from and who did it. And there's not even a H/T or shout out to my man Alfred Morris who gave me the inspiration. That is when I knew this is one of the more cringe motherfuckers we're going to probably cover in our days talking football.
I forget about this story too often, and I shouldn't, because it's really damning on character to fake humility. It's not even stolen valor. It's just stolen bit, and it's not your bit. That was Alfred Morris's life. That was his conscious choice. He wasn't doing it for cameras or to think that he was going to get an extension or easier time with the media. It's just what he was doing, how he was living. And RG3 turns it into a bit. The last thing that he did that was a real irritant was when Snyder was going down. He was like, "Yeah, I'm writing a book, and you guys can get all the salacious information, all the details of when he did this illegal stuff, and it's in my book. I'm gonna profit off of this guy in this saga one more time, 6 years removed from my being on the team." It's too opportunistic for me to really get on board there. I was irritated by that.
Just killing him today. All right, so we both agree, I think, then the Bengals had to do this because Joe Burrow did what he did. But if they just would have done what everybody said, and this goes to the Cowboys, as well. I mean, if you look at what Micah Parsons is, the last guy from 2021 or whatever, he's the only player that hasn't gotten his deal. It's going to cost them millions and millions of more dollars because I don't know. I don't know what they think. It's almost like, Tor, if you get a cavity and you just keep ignoring it and all of a sudden your tooth breaks off, you need a root canal. Like, what the fuck did you think was going to happen? Like, you knew the road you were headed down, and this is your fault and nobody else's. And that's what it looks like. I see your little clip there where you have written, make Kirk hold the clipboard. Kirk Cousins, and I have said this for years, should be teaching master classes to young athletes on how to get over, on how to get the most money, on how to use this league for what it's worth. Everybody wants to talk about Super Bowls and rings and Hall of Fame. Fuck that. How much have I stacked at the end of this when my hips give out? How many kids am I going to be able to put through college? I mean, that's the capitalistic way. And Kirk's the best. He's the absolute best at it, probably more than we even know, with some of the decisions he makes on the field to make sure that there's statistical categories that look good when it comes time for free agency. I think I have to rescind that offer after this is some bitch-made shit. And I think most of us that watched Michael Penix Jr. get drafted and then waited for Kirk Cousins to say what should have been said. This is bullshit. I could have stayed. I was behind the wheel of a Lambo, and I came down here, and this Mustang looks pretty nice, but we still have some work to do on. And then you pull this shit on me. He should have said something then, and he damn sure should have been saying something the entire time to the front office. And now it's just Kirk's a pro, and look, they're paying him all this money. Fuck that. This is a guy that on the open market could have probably gotten 2 or 3 starting offers. And the whole reason he didn't is because he's too goddamn, I don't even know if it's nice. I don't know if it's professional, Tor, but it's shitty. And now what are they going to say? We're giving you hundreds of millions. We're giving you $90 million. Like, you're going to have to just sit here and hope this kid works out. And then if he doesn't, maybe your old ass gets to limp back out on the field. I fucking hate it. I think the whole thing is dirty.
Yeah, it was blunder from the start, and the way that it's kind of being overlooked now back from the last draft is that Michael Penix Jr. looked semi-capable in the 3 games that he played at the end of the season this past year, where the arm strength looked better than Kirk's, and Kirk coming off of an injury also. Like, the expectations should have been much more dampened from myself and the other Atlanta faithful for Kirk Cousins' athletic ability this year. But I think he's being punished because if Kirk Cousins had been a model citizen the entire year, I think Atlanta in the front office would be cool and amenable, saying, all right, go to another team. We found our guy. Sorry it didn't work out. But he withheld the injury information in November, went on to lose 4 straight, and then outed that information after the season was over. I think that put egg on Terry Fontenot's face. I think it put egg on Arthur Blank's face and on Raheem Morris's face. And now they're going to try to milk the contract, saying, hey, we already paid you, big man. We're going to get your services as the best backup in the league, as a great as mind to have in the offensive quarterback room. But until we get an offer, or until it's June, where we can cut you or release you for much less money on a cap hit, then you're staying here in Atlanta, at least until June 2nd. So well, I don't mind it at this moment.
They're willing. So what is this, out of spite? You're going to pay him $27.5 million out of spite because they didn't like that?
That's where my head's at. I think they're withholding until they can get the cap cut by holding the contract until June 1st. And then Kirk will move to whoever else needs him.
There's a practical component of this too, though, Tor, is that Michael Penix has his own injury history. And there's one thing you can say about, I mean, Kirk Cousins got benched and didn't say a fucking word. Like, he could have put up a stink. Like, I think it's weird to say this because I think Justin Fields is served better by the fact that 4-2, I'm benched and I just sit there and watch fucking Russell Wilson go out there, have 2 or 3 night starts and then throw worm burners and say cringe shit all over the fucking field. Now he's getting $20 million a year and he gets to throw to all of his old teammates, and maybe it turns out better for him. But maybe he should have talked some shit too. Like, maybe he should have pushed back. I think Kirk Cousins should have pushed back when he got benched. He didn't. He was moping. I'm playing like shit. Like, I mean, he was, but now, like, you have set the table for you to just sit here and do whatever they say. Now, from the Falcons' perspective, you've already paid a lot of this money. You have a quarterback on a rookie deal. This is a very competent backup. This is more than a competent backup, and this is a guy that you would hope to be a quarterback whisperer, but we don't know how disgruntled Kirk Cousins is. Like, we don't know how upset he is by this. Is he going to be the type of guy if he's mad at the franchise that you want sitting there next to your quarterback and telling him how to go about his business? I don't know. I think that's a question it's fair to ask.
Now, it's really fair to ask because it was like a big deal that Michael Penix Jr. and Kirk Cousins lived somewhat close to each other, would carpool into work. And that was like the fun thing. The vet and the rookie carpooling into work, the vet start and the rookie's learning. Now, are we carpooling? Are we driving separate? Is the carpool conversation different? I don't know how those conversations were, even just in this small circumstance, how they were when the job was turned over to Penix last season. So there could definitely be some disgruntlement. I know that the city was ready and the team was ready to accept Kirk Cousins during Kirktober. It fell apart. It's tough. They're ready to embrace, but we got 3/4 of the way there and then petered out, and we're sitting here. Where's my hug at? We were making way for a hug, and then we didn't get there. So keeping him, I like in the dream world. Yes, Kirk is backup quarterback and on the team in some meaningful way. Where if Michael Penix Jr. gets hurt, then we're not in that terrible of a situation if Kirk Cousins comes in and starts running this offense. He's fresh, healthy, and obviously very competent at the quarterback position. I would really appreciate them keeping him instead of some A.J. McCarron or dick in the dirt backup, but I think he does end up getting moved.
This is very unconventional, and maybe it doesn't.
Oh, they botched it. They botched it to hell from step one in this new regime. The quarterback situation has been botched, but they wanted to make a play and get out of the rotating door, I believe.
You just need Penix to be really special, man. It's wild to me how we're one season removed from the Falcons. We're kind of the consensus pick to win the division, and now I don't know how with Tampa Bay being there and with Baker Mayfield's ascension that anybody would have those same thoughts. We do accept super chats on this show. You wouldn't know it. David Flaccoberry, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Happy Monday, friendo. So glad to hear football talk, nothing but baseball everywhere else. I mean, I would prefer baseball talk over the March Madness shit. I would take oh, thank you, by the way, David. I didn't mean to. Hold on, let me give you a little shine. There you go, bud. This time of year, Tor, I would take a week off. I think I did sports talk radio for 15 years. I don't remember. 5 years with LeVar, 11 years by myself. I'd take this week off every year because I didn't know anything about college basketball. I couldn't fake interest in it. But by the time I came back and it was getting more towards, nut cutting time, you can learn some of the bigger players. You have a guest on, but I'm just so disinterested by college hoops that it was just fucking torture. So I think spring training is more interesting, me personally.
It's a great tactic. I've even appreciated modern shows saying we don't know. Like Dan Le Batard's show did a thing where they said, "Hey, we don't know anything about college basketball. It's not a college basketball show.
Right.
We're gonna have a bunch of guests on that can come and talk college basketball. We'll be dicking around. We'll be making cracking jokes and making light of the situation, but there will be some college basketball people here to fill you in." Because they have to bring them in. It's so daunting to try to become an all sports guy, especially with football it being in the mix and college basketball having to track so many teams. It's not just the college football teams and they have a basketball team. No, there's teams without football teams that are just basketball schools. What do you know about LaSalle? What do you know about these teams in the A10 and Big East? You don't know nothing. So you need these experts, these niche reporters to be able to come on. So I applaud any show or person that says, I don't know about this. I'm bringing somebody in to enlighten me and you at the same time.
Thank you, David. Appreciate that. David, you got to be excited for a different David Jones leading your horseshoes back to the promised land. Daniel Jones. Why did I say David Jones? Daniel Jones. I like that. The more I've thought about that move, Tor, I like it more and more. The quarterback, head coaching pairing, and also, what was it? I was watching somebody that brought this up. It might have been McAfee. And he was talking about how if you don't have the weight of first overall pick, we need to give this guy another chance. We have to make it work. If it's just player versus player, well, Daniel Jones can do the things that Anthony Richardson can do. He can run the ball. He can throw it 1,000 miles outside of the fucking stadium. He's athletic. He's big. And he's got real world chops. He's got way more experience. So it seems very unlikely to me that Daniel Jones gets beaten out by Anthony Richardson at all. The only way this goes down in Indianapolis is if they just decide that they brought in Daniel Jones to push this dude harder. But then I don't think Daniel Jones agrees to that. He could have stayed up in Minnesota and waited for a shot. And again, in that Lamborghini, I think he's going to Indianapolis because they told him he was going to have a good chance to play this year.
It's a good move. The trendy thought around this move is if Anthony Richardson can't beat Daniel Jones, then he's not the quarterback of the future, which that's fine. Go ahead. Bring in a test. Bring in a guy that will let you know definitively whether he's cut from the right cloth or not. I think Anthony Richardson probably is, because I have seen some of the worst quarterback play in recent history come out of number 8 in that New York Giants uniform. But stranger things have happened in this league. I'm not going to put my foot down and assuredly say it can't work with him in a different situation, in a different conference, a different division, with a bunch of change. These quarterbacks are finicky. We saw it with Bryce Young in just 1 year. He had all that. You could almost see the pressure on his shoulders in the first half of this season. He gets pulled for Dalton, gets to watch the old man go in, win a game, do some Andy Dalton stuff and piss down his legs a little bit, come back in. I've been benched. What can I lose? Starts playing more loosely, starts playing better. Daniel Jones is not Bryce Young, but if he has somewhat of that weird quarterback gene and mentality, it could be a little bit fruitful for Indy.
But is Daniel Jones Geno Smith? Is Daniel Jones Baker Mayfield? Like we're in the era of the Reclamation project, brother, and I love it. I'm here
for
the
it. Reclamation. Yeah,
me too. Especially when you have these garbage franchises that garbage it up and they draft a guy and they ruin him and they put him in front of a bad offensive line, bad weapons, bad scheme, and then we say he's a bust, he stinks, he can't play football. Go fuck yourself. And let's get him out here with Sean McVay, right? Let's get him out here with Kyle Shanahan. We'll see what type of a bust Sam Darnold is. Is he stacking cash now? So I think Daniel Jones could do that with Steichen, and they've got some pieces there in Indianapolis. They're not devoid. And the Jaguars suck. The Titans are the worst team that's ever been assembled ever since I became a fan. We all know the way that this goes.
Why would you guys let Westbrook-Ikhine move?
I don't want to talk about it.
I don't get it.
Literally the only guy that can catch a touchdown for that fucking team.
I'm sitting here, actually late last season, said, we got to take this Westbrook-Ikhine guy to get a touchdown score on the big parlays. And he would. I
got to see the deal he got, too, because I guarantee it was nothing. It makes no sense. All right, let's deal. And they're talking about getting everything ready for Cam Ward. It's like, well, he's got having a guy that is consistent and can find the end zone and doesn't say anything and prepares.
He's like, yeah, you actually got a guy putting up hopefully Treylon Burks production, and then you're left with Treylon Burks with no production. So
I don't want to talk about Treylon Burks. I don't even see the fucking deal. Where's the deal, Tor? I want to hate watch it. I want to hate read the details about how much money he got from the Miami Dolphins. All right, here we go. Okay, 2-year deal, $6.5 million, $3.2 million guaranteed. Nothing.
They could have shaken the vending machines in Nashville and found that money for him.
One of the few bright spots last year. Really is. He's only 28 years old as well. Okay. All right, let's move on. Oh, what do you think of this, by the way? I talked about this on the Chad Duke show today. I wanted to bring it up with you. The Savannah Bananas sold out Raymond James Stadium, which, of course, I think most of you know is where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers play. I had a pretty spicy hot take on my show tour. It was definitely not woke. I thought it was it. Here's what I take umbrage with, and I don't have kids, but people want to get into the comments of this fucking story because I've been spending a lot of time stewing and hating, and they want to say thank you to the Savannah Bananas for growing the game. Like that somehow this is helping the sport of baseball, not the sport of TikTok dances and this myopic, narcissistic view of society. This is what goes on at the Savannah Bananas games. You're going to have to explain to me how this contributes to young men finding their way to baseball. This is very, I'd say homoerotic is the right way to describe the dance we're watching here. Whether or not it's popular, I think that argument's already done. It's popular. People love this shit. But where I find I have a very difficult time processing toward that the Savannah Bananas are going to make more kids want to go out and try out for their high school baseball team. I think it's the exact opposite.
Yeah, I have very conflicted about the Savannah Bananas. It's the circus, the owner of the franchise, when they were just a minor league baseball franchise, acknowledged that we wanted to make it a circus. We wanted to make it fun. We changed the rules to make it a more crazy watch for fans.
These dudes in pink with their hands on their asses, like what part about that's crazy? Look, it's not bad or good. It is what it is.
It's High School Musical. It's YouTube. Yes. It's TikTok stuff. And it's corny. It's not really baseball, but moms like it and girls like it, and that's what it is. So it kind of has its place, but it's so uniquely Savannah Bananas that if there was like the Rochester Bulldogs, if they tried doing this, they just look like a bunch of dickheads because it takes too long to build this type of mania up. I'd go to a game like if my mom wanted to go to a game, but I'm never like searching out saying I gotta go see the Savannah Bananas. I'm not following them. Is it
good for sports? I don't think it's good for sports. I think it's good for more of kids dancing in front of cell phones. That's what it is. It's not making people learn and like baseball. And look, I'm not trying to be an old fuddy-duddy purist. I'm not the biggest baseball. I like the product live. I love spring training. And I think there's value in it. It teaches patience. Certainly, it's not like basketball or football or you have instant gratification. Like, it's a different type of viewing experience, but I just don't. I look at that, and to me, it feels like razor scooters. It feels like e-bikes. It's like, oh, the kids are technically on a bike, but they ain't doing no pedaling. And that's the vibe I get from it.
You're not wrong. The state of baseball, it bums me out because it's all carnival stuff. The food that they sell at stadiums is disgusting slop that's meant for. It is. It's triple berry milkshakes with donuts on the top. I actually withheld sending you a photo of a donut hot dog because it looked like dog feces on grass, and it's just foul and disgusting. And
what about this? A 98-ounce souvenir bat with free refills of popcorn.
That I would bash over my friends' heads for a full ball game. What is that? $22? I'd spend $200. Me and all my friends would spend $200 to hit each other over the back of the heads with it and watch the popcorn fly everywhere. We'd get kicked out by the third inning.
You in the house of happiness, somebody would leave dead. I mean, you'd be dragging a body out of the baseball stadium if you guys all had those.
We couldn't.
Because I like the beers. What is it? The beer bats too. Like I like all that shit.
Yeah, that's great. I've had to separate fights over beer bats. One, wanting the beer bat, and two, you have to stop hitting me with that beer bat. And I can't have it. I had to put it on the top shelf. Nobody could get it.
That's right. No one could reach you because you put it on the top shelf.
Like, that's a good gimmick because it's popcorn. It's not a bunch of bullshit on the inside of the bats. Baseball is supposed to be boring. It is boring. It's for families.
That's not a good sales pitch, brother.
I know, but it's just supposed to go there and watch the semi-boring sport relax. And it's not supposed to be like a video game where you're clenched and tense the whole time, waiting for the next big dopamine rush. You're going to see some walks. You're going to see a guy have to get pulled out of the bullpen and warm up. It's a good test in patience. It's a good test in maturity of if you can. I think when you're grown up is when you can sit through 9 innings of a baseball game.
Yeah, I've never gotten there, but I'm with you. I completely agree. It's like managing your weight. There's just people that can do it. Now it's, I don't think Ozempic is the same thing as learning a balanced diet and exercising. You don't like this? New at the Pirates game, Polish cannonball, egg noodle, kielbasa, cabbage, bacon, cheddar cheese, and an herb crema dip.
Yeah, I'd put it in every hole that I had because that's still that looks like food to me. But a lot of the Darren Ravel food postings are revolting, and it's just for yuppies getting off of happy hour or a happy hour to go over to a baseball game because Deloitte got them the tickets down in section 112 and they could take a photo of the funny food and they're not like actually embracing baseball, which is the pipe organ and it's the cheers and it's the stupid wave.
You're describing with the way I describe the Savannah Bananas is that you're looking at a dying sport that's trying to gussy up, that's trying to lipstick up this pig as much as they possibly. Is this the type of thing you're talking about?
That would, but yes, that could definitely be eradicated from baseball. It's hot dogs and burgers. It's not $22 brisket sandwiches. You get a hot dog for $3, please. That's all it needs to be.
The Z-Man sandwich, slow smoked beef brisket, provolone, topped with 2 crispy onion rings on a toasted Kaiser roll. Yeah, like if I went to Monk's and this was a special, I would smash. But I'm with you. First of all, God bless your stomach if you could eat this thing and then sit through 8 innings of fucking baseball. It's just not happening.
And maybe I'm projecting because I just operate at baseball games differently. I like to buy a bunch of big beers and gnaw on peanuts and spit them out on the ground.
Me too. Make a big mess.
And have a big mess and have a fun time at the ball game. Like, it's just doing baseball things. But you're trying to bring in all these TikTok ADHD brain-rotted bastards into the stadium, and they don't have something shiny or colorful to look at or consume. And they're like, oh, baseball sucks. Baseball. Well, it's just baseball. Let baseball be baseball. There are plenty. You want to go do all that, go to the NBA. Go watch basketball. Go watch anything, any other sport. But, like, this kind of also toes the line of, like, what golf is doing with there's, like, one tournament a year at the Waste Management Open in Phoenix where people can go and party. But every other tournament is golf. It's pretty reserved, claps, nice little golf claps, big pops if there's a big shot. But, you know, they have kind of regulated it to once, if you want to become a drunken asshole, not golf fan, and come party around the sport, here's the dates you can do it. The rest of it is going to be golf. I hope that baseball can just take a page from that and say, maybe you'll get one 10-cent beer night a year, but the rest of it is baseball.
Well, 10-cent beer night leads to some acrimony. At least it has in the past. That and burning disco records. So I don't know if you saw the Schefter report, but the consensus now is that Cam Ward is the number 1 overall pick, regardless of who's there. That's if it's a foregone conclusion that the Titans are going to take him at this point. You got to. The way they've approached free agency lets you know the quarterback. It's not a priority to them in free agency, and that's fine. So if they trade out, it would have to be. And look, the phone should be left on. The Giants are a ridiculous franchise. I mean, you got a couple of them. The Raiders are a silly, stupid franchise. I don't care how many times they mention Tom Brady. These dumb motherfuckers might come up there with 3 first-round picks and say, here, and then you drop back and you take a stud. This is Chris Sims' draft rankings. Cam Ward at 1, Shedeur Sanders and Jackson Dart at 2. And then you get down with Quinn Ewers and Kyle McCord, tier 3. And there's some honorable mentions on the bottom there. I don't know, Tor. Would Bo Nix be the first quarterback taken overall in this year's draft? I think the answer is probably yes. We all remember where he went last year. I know that Cam Ward is the consensus number 1 pick in this year's draft, but that doesn't mean that that's where he should be taken. And the desperation and the stink of this whole thing continues to go nuts. What I am very interested in is Shedeur is the one that had the giant cleats, you know, and they're the Browns. They're the Browns sit with this whole bloated fuck. The perfect thing for them would be to have a quarterback that's on one of these rookie deals that allows them to deal with that bloat from the Deshaun Watson contract. So if it does go this way, Cam goes 1 overall, and let's just say that the Browns draft Shedeur Sanders. Does Deion Sanders get involved? He has come out and said, we played the clip on this show, the two of us, where he said it's going to be an Eli Manning. I don't know, like we're weeks away from days away from Myles Garrett saying we can't win here. I don't want to be here. This is terrible. A big Brinks truck full of money doesn't change all that shit that he said. I wonder if we see Deion get involved if this is the way it shakes out.
He should, because there's only 2. It's only Ward. It's only Sanders. Dart is a backup in the NFL. He's only like 6'2". Ewers 6'2". McCord 6'3". Like
why is Dart getting slurped so much recently then?
Because when Lane Kiffin makes it look good at Ole Miss, it looks really good.
Right.
The wide receiver's open. The timing with the quarterback is perfect. It just looks like a great football play. Like that's where I get duped by him and Ole Miss every single year. Is that when I see how it's supposed to look, it's like poetry. It's fantastic offense. But when it's not like that, it's pick-a-thon, and it is just not what it should be. Like, Ole Miss has had the talent to actually make a push and a run in the SEC as they've gotten weaker with more parity, and they haven't done it. And Jackson Dart is a tough kid. He's a tough quarterback, took a lot of hits this year. He kept on getting up. I'm not trying to knock him, but he's not in that same tier. I know it's the time where we're making headlines and trying to make a push for I don't know, to hype up the quarterback market, but it's not. It's 2 guys, and I think Deion Sanders knows that, I think he knows that Kyle McCord's not getting drafted round 1. Quinn Ewers isn't, and Jackson Dart definitely isn't. So if it's one of two options, maybe I have to intervene. Maybe I do have to intervene and push him back to a better team later in the draft, even if it is one pick. But how much worse is Cleveland than New York at this point? I mean, that Eli rose-colored glasses tint is definitely fading very, very quick.
I just think you're looking at some teams that if one or two of those quarterbacks is sitting there and they have decided to go, the Sam Darnold route, the Aaron Rodgers route, they have a veteran Kirk Cousins if he's available, and you can get one of those guys and develop them at the same time. Looks very good to your fan base. I think we're getting to a point, Tor, where these college athletes have more power than any college athletes have in the history of mankind because they're coming in without most of them without financial desperation, right? Like you're not sitting there and coming from an impoverished neighborhood and having parents that sacrificed everything and all the different tropes we've seen around athletes. It's somebody is going to stand up and say, if you're Cincinnati, you're Cleveland, you're Jacksonville, whoever the dog shit franchises are, don't even think about it. We're not going to sign with you. Stay the fuck away from us. And I wonder how the NFL is going to – remember when Snyder was going through all of his troubles and we're like, I wonder what the NFL is doing behind the scenes to push this guy out. And ultimately it was FedEx and it was just this giant mutiny, right? And they got rid of him and they were able to oust him. Like, I bet with these athletes, they have more of a voice than they ever has. It ultimately leads to the Browns or whomever you think that the cons are the bad owners in this league having to do something different or risk the NFL taking action against them because they can't have that being said publicly.
I hope we get to see more blockbuster trades in the draft where you have these desperate ass teams that say, I'm not getting fixed in this draft. Like in this one specifically, my latest pitch for New York is if Ward goes 1, Shedeur goes 2, I'm not drafting one of these. I'm making a trade. I want Trevor Lawrence from Jacksonville. Right. I want Kyler Murray from Arizona. Like, we're going to start moving commodities that are proven in the NFL, at least somewhat, because I'm not sinking a number 3 pick into a quarterback that I know is not going to do it for me, or another player who just doesn't have that value of that top 3 pick. I really hope New York makes a play and says, I'm making a big boy trade here. I'm really leveraging it. We are not getting fixed this year or next year, and we get to see something like that. Teams should start getting creative and stop being held hostage and say, we're going to try to find some win-wins because we can't keep on being left on the hook in this same situation year in, year out with bad quarterbacks coming in up through the draft.
Gun to your head, where do you think Rodgers ends up?
Pittsburgh. I think it is Pittsburgh.
Me too. Although I'm with you, I'm rooting for Minnesota for so many reasons.
Just like I need air to breathe. I want them in Minnesota, but I just don't think that. I don't think they do it. I think Minnesota is trying to get clean slate rookie or second year quarterback, clear head, not having to deal with Rodgers.
I don't know that dealing with Rodgers this time around is, first of all, everything that I heard about him coming out of the Jets camp, maybe Garrett Anderson aside, was they liked him. The guys on the team actually thought he was a good teammate, all the other bullshit aside. Now, all that other bullshit has to be taken into account, but he has to have been humbled a little bit. He also wanted to go back to New Jersey from some of the reports that we've seen. So I don't know if it was as bad on his end. If you look at it like we have got look at where the 49ers are, Tor. I mean, the 49ers were as talented as anybody, had all these players, and it comes to a close, and it happens quickly before you're ready for it. And maybe they reload. I don't know. The Rams look like they're much better. Seattle looks like it got better. The 49ers might be the third best team, fourth best team in that division, the way it shakes out. If I'm Minnesota and I think that the Aaron Rodgers that threw for 28 touchdowns and 6 picks or whatever it was, and is now a full year removed and motivated to get back. By the way, there's so much get back for him in that division. And then I'm looking at the Bears. The Bears had a ballistic offseason. I mean, you had other teams' players begging the Bears to stop signing players. I've never heard of anything like that. We talk about players podcasting, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and he wasn't wrong.
Oh, you saw that too? Yeah, he's like, God damn, Ben. Okay. That one's not bad because I feel like they speak pretty candidly about
and I mean,
the situation.
It's also you're looking at it like, Jesus Christ, the Bears have said. The Bears, I'm trying to think of who had the best offseason. I put Washington in there. for this free agency period.
The Rams are at the top of mine still.
I think Denver might be at the top of mine.
Denver did real good. I think the Evan Ingram addition is sneaky. He's still Evan Ingram, so we're going to see
Fonga, Greenlaw's there now. And they're the team tour that I most see linked with Ashton Jeanty. Jeanty? How do I say his name? Boise State?
Jeanty.
I hear it's pronounced both ways. They get that motherfucker in that offense at the way they can move the football and the way they spread that football. Bonek spreads the ball around. I mean, I don't know if I have them contending for the division, but they ended up 10-7 last year. And of course, they got blown out by Buffalo in the first round of the playoffs. That was the first year with Bo Nix, rookie quarterback with Sean Payton.
It's looking like it's coming together, which is good. And I think for to close the Rodgers point, at this point, he could be a better teammate. And he could be a really good dude to have around the locker room. But are you going to want your team? He's at the point now where if you're another player, you're going to be asked about him constantly, and it's going to be okay. Well, I'm a defensive lineman. I had 2 sacks, and you're going to keep asking me about the quarterback.
Yeah, but dude, you don't think that Josh Allen? Everybody asks about Josh Allen and Pat Mahomes. I mean, that just goes with the fucking. Here's what I'll say about.
They don't have that Rodgers context with him. Also, they're
Rodgers has never had an Andy Reid. He's never had an Andy Reid. He's never had a Bill Belichick, and he's never had no disrespect to Greg Jennings or Devontae Adams or Donald Driver or anybody else that I don't forget how far back Rodgers goes, but he's never had Justin Jefferson and Hawkinson, and the running back is his buddy. I understand if the Vikings, they haven't shut this down, right? And the Vikings wanted to keep Daniel Jones, and the Vikings wanted to keep Sam Darnold. They have concerns about whether or not J.J. McCarthy is going to be ready, and they should. He's got to prove he can stay healthy, and he's got to learn this fucking system, and he's got to play in the pros after getting hit by pro players. So I understand why the Vikings haven't shut this rumor mill down when they could have at any moment.
Yeah, that's right. They could shut it down at any moment. Rodgers did play with a JJ before. James Jones is one that I look back on fondly with a couple big years in Green Bay.
He did. I mean, he's just never had anything. And look, that Jets team last year was talented, but he's never had anything like what Minnesota is. And it's so quarterback friendly that I think they'd be silly because JJ McCarthy's not going anywhere. He is under contract and he will have been able to set behind a 4-time MVP, one of the greatest to ever do it, who, by the way, had a good relationship with the other quarterbacks last year. So,
right.
I don't know. I like it. All right. Are wings an appetizer or a meal or their own thing? That's not the wings. Give me a moment. These are my wings. I had these on Sunday night. I sent the picture over to Tor, and I guess I changed your dinner plans. You said, that's it. I'm having wings for dinner. But we got into this debate today, Tor. This is not as pedantic as the hot dog as a sandwich debate. I hate that shit. But I have noticed that in establishments that want wings to be their primary source of revenue, the wings given their own stratosphere on the menu. Like Buffalo Wild Wings does this, Glory Days does this. But in every other, shithead sports bar or whatever, wings are with the appetizers. And I don't think they are an appetizer, Tor. I don't know that they're a meal either. I couldn't come up with a good answer for this.
I've enjoyed them more as a meal. When I have a wing as an appetizer, I'm delighted. It's great. I love a chicken wing. I'm never going to not like a chicken wing. But I want to be all in on chicken wing time because it is cumbersome. It is saucy on your fingers. It's distinct. You're getting punched with flavor on every bite because they're sauced so well. It's unique in the way that you eat them. I view it as a full meal experience because it's not just, oh, here we got tater tots or nachos for the table. Let me just pick this up, pop it in my mouth. It is, I'm working around this thing. I have to put in some effort to get the sustenance, and that constitutes a meal, in my opinion. If I have to use a fork, that is effort to get my sustenance. If I have to just use fingers and it's easy, no wipe, then that falls into appetizer category for me. I enjoy it more as a meal, and I consider wings to be a meal more often, but I appreciate their flexibility between both worlds.
I'll go further. I've never ordered wings as an appetizer anytime I've ever eaten wings. And I put wings in the same category. I'm not a crabs fan, but I put them in the same category as a crabs. It's also somewhat of an activity. Like getting a bucket of wings, you and your buddy watching a football game over 3 hours. That's just kind of what you do. You can't do that with a burger. You can't even do that with pizza. So there's that component as well. The part of it that is interesting too is wings to me have got to be restaurant dine-in. You cannot have those motherfuckers delivered. If you do, they're going to be soggy. You certainly can't get them from a Papa John's or a Domino's or any of those places. I'm not going to trust that. And here's what I said today, Tor, is that steak, when it is good, has the ability to be better than everything else. I think wings are the same way, and I think it's rare to find both very, very good. And when you do, it should be cherished, because most wings are bad that I have, but when they get them right and they grill them and then they flash fry them and the sauce is everywhere and it's tangy and it's got some heat, wings have the ability to be the best thing on the menu no matter what's on the menu, but you got to find the right spot.
Here, you're nailing it here. I have to have a crispy wing. I have to have it sauced down. Don't play with me. Don't bullshit me on the sauce. I'm gonna catch you, and I'm not gonna dig it. Additionally, I will get snobby, and I will also be simultaneously a pussy about this. I don't like wings with attachments. I don't like wings that have a little extra poking out at the top. I like the cleanest cut wing possible. Yeah, I just want the very easy drumstick or flat. Like anything extra on that, it skeeves me, and I'm a big pussy for it, right? Because you got
that's a weird take.
In the world that are they're chewing on the bone. They're like, oh yeah, I clean my wing perfectly. I put in a very good effort, but once I start getting into the nitty gritty and start looking at it, it's almost. I was going to make a very gross comparison. I don't like looking too deep into the wing. I just like having it there and working through it.
I'm worried that
fully
reproductive organs going to be
the exact one. Yes. Once you start working with the inner mechanisms and getting in there, it's like, okay, what am I doing?
What the hell?
I'm going back to Blade. That's what I'm doing. Shutting it down for the evening.
I'll get an Uber, bitch. I'm watching Deadpool 2 again.
Flew too close to the sun. Not on you. That's on me.
Man. Yeah. The only thing about bones too, I don't want to deal with the leftovers from wings. Like motherfuckers eating chicken wings in your house. They throw them in the yard. There's maggots. The dog's choking on them. I want you to take my bones. And by the way, I feel terrible for the waiters and waitresses and bartenders and wing places, because it's just like the plate is a million napkins with your grease all over it, and there's cartilage and bone guts everywhere. It's a bad bit.
It's revolting, but I love them, and it's a food
wings
that I hope to keep in my constant rotation till my end of days.
Completely agree. All right, very good. Well, the off season is long, most assuredly. Make sure you are subscribed on iTunes or Spotify. Leave a 5-star review. Consider coming over and watching us live on youtube.com/Chad Duke Show. Both types of sports, usually 2 times a week. Sometimes it'll be 1 time a week, but this is 5:30 p.m. on a Monday. We like to talk off season. For Radio's Gigantor, I'm the Shootster, the Deacon of Diarrhea, reminding you to go long, real long.
Hey, what do you got?
Both types of sports.
Yeah, what's it do? Go long. Real long. Nice toss.
Both types of sports.